Jesse Jackson and his wonderful, wonderful wife.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you
Yes.
both.
You're
we
welcome.
love you both. We're so excited to be here with you.
You know, Sandy, Jesse, Peyton, and I have been friends for many years. And so, first of all, we thank you for bringing us into your home. It's a wonderful home. They didn't let us show it all around. So we want to thank you, first of all, for extending that courtesy to us.
Absolutely. You guys are friends and family.
Well, I
and
appreciate
so
that.
You are home when
Yes.
you're here with us in our home. And we
Thank you
appreciate
for welcoming
having you.
me.
We do.
Well, Mrs. Wilborn, you can ask the first question.
How did you all meet?
Oh, wow. Wow. It was really, how many years ago? 20?
22.
22 years ago when I was working on the Hill as a young staffer for the late Congressman Mickey Leland. And I was his press secretary. And JJjr came in with his dad because his dad was seeking the endorsement of my boss. And my boss decided to give his daddy the endorsement, and he asked me to work on the press conference with the young Mr. Jesse here, which I agreed to do.
He asked you to work on the what?
The press conference.
Slightly. I walked in the room and
Oh, here we
she
go.
saw me, and it was just love at first sight.
When she saw you?
Absolutely. And it took some time for me to warm up to the idea.
It's
see.
always revisionist
see.
history here.
Because you was busy and everybody was after you back
Yeah.
then.
About national health care,
Yes.
housing,
Yes.
unemployment. I was thinking about, the Jackson campaign, serious issues.
Oh,
The
yeah.
young lady was press secretary for the congressman, and, I ask you out, you ask me out.
No, because after that, it was really interesting. I left to go to Texas to work for Governor Dukakis and Senator Benson. He was still working for his daddy, but he was sweet as could be and would come down to Austin to visit me. You remember that?
I do remember that.
And so you guys been married how long now?
20 years,
20
June
years.
1st. June 1st.
Wow,
20
beautiful.
years.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
20 beautiful years.
Yeah, and it's been a honeymoon ever since. I'm going to tell you this is really interesting. All throughout our marriage, we've been in two cities, kind of floating between whether it was law school or my working for Mickey in Washington. He was here in Chicago. And then I was at Georgetown. He was at the University of Chicago Seminary with Michael Eric Dyson as his first professor.
Wow.
Wow.
How about
At
that?
the seminary. That's when we met Michael. And so we've had this dynamic where we've been between two cities.
Yes.
So it's always kept us on this perpetual honeymoon. Honey, I can't wait to see you. When you're coming home.
That's exciting.
I got to see you.
Well, it's funny that you bring that up, and that the title of this particular story is Through Thick and Through Thin.
Yeah.
And for a 20-year marriage, there's had to been a whole lot of thick involved with that.
Yeah.
So how have you all been able to handle that part of it?
You know what? I think the core of it is the friendship. You have to be best friends no matter what. And
I agree with
this
that.
man said the sweetest thing to me when we were dating. He said, honey, he said, I love you to death, but if you don't love me the way I love you, I hope that we can at least be friends for the rest of our lives, because I would never want to lose you in my life. And that's when I knew that this man was going to be my husband.
Wow.
I heard
Because
that.
no matter what, he wanted our friendship to stay intact. And so through our friendship, through everything, stressful campaigns, long periods apart, financial difficulties, trouble conceiving and maintaining pregnancies, he's been there through thick and thin, and times when I wanted to choke him and say, what am I doing? Because Jesse gets in these periods where he's very, very creative. And he's got that creative energy.
Yes,
he
he
wants to do
does.
stuff now. And I'm very much the opposite. Let's
You like to
figure out
think
how
it
we
out
can-
and plan
and
it.
tinker. And that energy sometimes can be overwhelming. We call him the tornado when he comes home, because the tornado has arrived and things start moving.
Yes.
And the staff and everybody's used to me going, oh, we're going to do it this way. So through those periods, you just kind of step back and say, this is my best friend.
Sure.
I got to support him. And he has done the same for me. But even when we want to choke each other, that's when we fall back on the friendship.
Sure.
Because the friendship sustains you no matter what. You can look back and say, well, my last nerve. I can't take it no more. But then you look at your friendship and say, this
That's true.
guy has been with me through the most difficult times of my life, when I thought we couldn't recover, when we lost our first child. I was devastated. I went through depression, but he was there. And never once did he say, you know what, I can't take all the crying. I can't take the sadness. I can't take what you're going through. He was always there. And when I did come out of it, he was like, baby, no matter what, we're going to make it.
Wow.
And we're going to be okay. And so I think a lot of people get caught up in the romantic notion of marriage being this wonderful thing, and you're just going to be kissy face every day.
That's
and you're not.
That's not realistic.
It's not realistic.
No, it's not.
You know, I try to kiss him every day, and look at those lips. And he's so visible, and he's so cute. Mwah.
Now let me ask you this.
Well, I want to respond to that because I think people tend to approach marriage very romantically, and that's important. I think they approach it mostly with their head. That is, they feel that they're in love, they think they're in love, and not necessarily with their heart.
Sure.
And when they approach it with their heart, it's a different level of thought, I think, that goes in the process. I didn't marry my girlfriend. I married my best friend. And my best friend was also my girlfriend. I didn't hang out with the guys as much as I hung out with Sandy. I didn't talk as much garbage with the fellas as much as I talked garbage with Sandy.
Sure.
And so that gave us a friendship that is capable of weathering just about any storm. And into every life, obviously, some rain must fall.
Sure.
But there are more sunny days than there are rainy days.
There is, and I think too, you got to be on the same train, going in the same direction. I'm fascinated by politics, and he happens to be in it.
Yeah.
And so we had something that, you know, really sustained us through the years because we were equally yoked.
Sure.
And that's important, to find someone who is equally yoked with you so that you don't have this dynamic constantly pulling you apart.
Well, speaking of the political part of your lives, what have been the advantages of being Jesse Jackson Jr.? And then tell me what have been the disadvantages of being Jesse Jackson Jr.
Well, one of the advantages is that with a very powerful and a very famous and well-known name, there's tremendous wind beneath my wings. There's wind at my back. Anyone who's ever run track knows that there's a difference between running with wind at your back than running into a headwind. And for most of my public life, I've been fortunate and blessed to have had a name and a family that is dedicated to public service and a reputation that is associated with public service. From that tremendous advantage comes the good and the bad.
Sure.
High name recognition. Out of 435 members of Congress, there are probably 10 that everybody knows. And with that name recognition comes a lot of light. But the light doesn't do you any favors. If you can't speak, if you're not intelligible, if you can't argue the case for the constituents that you represent, TV doesn't do you any favors. It simply exposes who you are. And so with that, comes wind at your back. But there are also challenges. There are the challenges of those who question your level of service, who question your level of commitment. They don't know me. They don't know what I've been through. They don't know where I live. They don't know what I've experienced. They assume that the wind has always been at your back. And with a famous name comes people who know you before you know them. And before I walked into a classroom when I was a youngster, all my classmates knew me before I even knew their names.
Wow.
The same is true when I walked the first day into the Congress of the United States. The same is true every time I walk down the streets.
What's been the disadvantages, though?
Well, I think that, obviously at one level or another, the advantages far outweigh the disadvantages. But with, high name recognition, come the challenges in anyone's life that may fall. The challenge is being a public servant. I could have chosen a different career, but I accepted and made this bed that I chose to lay in to represent people on the south side of Chicago. The challenges, the disadvantages, my son's name is Jesse Jackson III. My daughter's name is Jessica Jackson. So the amount of time that I can spend with them and try to spend with them to let them know that most people know who they are before they know who they are. And their peer pressures. Being a father, being a parent, being a husband, very, very difficult with the pressures associated with just being who you are.
Sure.
And so I got this lady here to keep me kind of grounded, to kind of add some kind of modicum of decorum and stability to our lives, because she sees things and she sees people in ways that, you know, the public servant or the politician who just wakes up, shakes a hand, kisses a baby, she sees people approaching us differently than I see them approaching us. And that level of sensitivity, you know, I thank my friend for that. I'm a member of for example, in the state of Illinois, a member of the State Central Committee. And yesterday we had our first meeting since I was elected to serve in this body with 38 people. And it was a 3-hour drive to get to the meeting. I wasn't going to go. I decided to go. And I was going to send my proxy down there to represent me. And at the last minute, I decided I wanted to drive down there for the first meeting. And I must have gotten a dozen calls from people, including the media. He's coming. He's coming. He's coming. He's on the way down. What's he going to say? What's he going to do? What's he going to say? He's coming. He's on the way. He's on.
Scared.
Got down there, didn't say nothing. Got back in my conference room, on back to the office. But you know, he's coming. He's
Right.
coming. What's he going to say? I mean,
Sure.
what's he going to do? That aura kind of follows us wherever we go. It kind of follows us wherever we go.
Saying that, Sandy, how do you separate being Jesse's wife overall and being Jesse's wife as the congressman?
It's easy for me because, you know, when he comes home, he's Jesse,
He's hungry.
the repairman. He may see himself as the congressman. And when he comes home, I try to create an environment that is supportive of his needs and the children and myself, because we live in such a high-pressured, very stressful dynamic, bouncing between two cities. I don't want him to come home all the time and have me yelling and screaming, so I don't do that. But I do want him to come home and feel like he's a part of it.
Do he come home and see this, your beautiful wife,
Thank you, Peyton. I love you for that.
beautiful wife, walk into the door this, say, I'm home, this is my wife? Or does he come home, you feel he comes home and you the alderman?
No, I don't bring that in the house. When he comes home, I have my wife hat on. Alderman hat is left at the office. So that means...
What
if
else
he's
do you
up
have
to-
on?
Oh, Lord, now, you know. But you know what? He's a man first, and I'm a woman first.
That's right.
And we've got to keep our marriage alive. We've got
Marriages
to keep...
have to reinvent themselves.
Absolutely.
We know about that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We know about
They
We
have to
understand
reinvent
that.
It
themselves.
has
Yeah.
to
Totally.
reinvent, and he has to be excited about seeing me.
On a more serious note, there's been tons of accusations and opinions about your involvement when it came to the vacant, at the time, the vacant Senate seat of our wonderful President Barack Obama. There's still, I imagine, things looming and everything have not come out. But knowing you, I found it as a friend very
We took it home.
unnerving to hear all of the rumors and, you know, Jesse Jackson Jr. He's the what was it, the 13th?
Oh, yeah.
It's
Senator 5.
he's Senator 5, and all of these accusations,
Right.
you know, came about, and people who know you,
Right.
and even people who don't know you personally, but respect and love who you are as a congressman,
Right.
it's very, very uneasy for us not to know what the truth is when it comes to this issue. Can you and will you shed any light on that whole situation?
Sure, I can share with you what I know.